My name is Melissa Hartman, and I'm 31 years old. Right now, there's a half-drunk cup of coffee beside my keyboard, a rainstorm pressing against the window, and a silence so deep it feels rehearsed. 8 months ago, I thought I was on the verge of forever. I had a ring box in my hand, a plan in my heart, and a man who smiled like he believed in us. His name was Ryan Foster, 28, charming in that photogenic boy-next-door way that fools everyone except time. He worked in marketing. I'm a systems analyst. I deal in contracts, clauses, logic, things that make sense. He dealt in impressions and captions, things that made people feel. I proposed to him last spring. It wasn't some grand romantic gesture, more like two people who'd spent enough nights building Pinterest boards and pretending someday was soon. I'd found a stunning engagement ring, 2 carats, platinum band, clean and cold and honest. The truth, I didn't pay for it outright. The jeweler downtown, Kleinman Fine Jewelers, offered a lease-to-own program, $3,000 down, then $500 a month, interest-free if paid on time. After 18 months, it would be officially mine. It made sense. Practical, structured, safe. Ryan never knew that detail, not because I was hiding it, just because I thought we'd be married long before the final payment cleared. I imagined we'd laugh someday about how I'd technically financed his ring, but life doesn't always care about the math. The distance started slowly. Missed dinners, late replies, a sudden preoccupation with his mental clarity. His new gym friend Chloe began showing up in conversations like punctuation. Short, constant, impossible to ignore. Then came Thursday night. I'd left work early, excited to cook his favorite, garlic lemon pasta, the one he always said reminded him of our first real date. When I walked in, the apartment was dark except for the blue glow of his phone. "Hey," I said softly, "you hungry?" He barely looked up. "Not really. Ate with Chloe after the gym." That name again. Something tightened in my chest, but I smiled anyway. "Oh, okay. Maybe tomorrow night then?" He sighed, the kind of sigh meant to announce exhaustion without words. "Melissa, I need to talk to you." That sentence should be copyrighted by Heartbreak. Every version ends the same way. He leaned back, thumb still sliding on his screen. "I feel like you've been controlling lately, like you don't trust me." I laughed, because sometimes the only alternative is screaming. "I don't trust you because you lie about who you're with at 11 p.m. That's not control, Ryan. That's context." His eyes narrowed. "You always make everything sound like a lecture." "And you always make everything sound like a performance," I shot back. He stood up, pacing now. "I need space to figure things out." "Space," I repeated. "Like a breakup?" He shrugged. "If that's what you want to call it, I think we both know this isn't working." My pulse roared in my ears. "Ryan, we're engaged. The wedding's in 6 months." He wouldn't meet my eyes. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe we rushed. The silence stretched, heavy, surgical. I swallowed the ache and said quietly, "If you want out, say it clearly." He looked straight at me then. "I think I do." There it was, the clean cut. I nodded. "Then it's over." He exhaled, relief flickering across his face. And then, unbelievably, he looked down at his hand. The ring. "I'm keeping this," he said, almost casually. "It was a gift." Something inside me stopped moving. "You're ending our engagement and keeping the ring I'm still paying for?" He smirked, that half-laugh people use when they think they've outsmarted you. "Legally, it's mine. Look it up. You gave it to me." The entitlement hit harder than the breakup. For a second, I saw not the man I loved, but a stranger with my trust around his finger. I felt anger rise like heat. And then I did something that surprised even me. I smiled. "You're absolutely right." He blinked. "Really?" "Yeah," I said calmly. "It's a gift. Keep it." His shoulders relaxed. "I'm glad you're being mature about this." I forced a soft laugh. "Of course. I'll, go for a drive. Clear my head." "Sure. Take your time." He didn't even look up as I grabbed my coat and keys. I left the apartment and stepped into the cold drizzle outside. For the first time in weeks, the air felt sharp and real, the kind that cuts through illusion. By the time I reached my car, I already knew where I was going. Kleinman Fine Jewelers. Before closing. Because if Ryan wanted to play legal games, I'd make sure the rules were crystal clear. The rain hadn't stopped when I pulled into the parking lot of Kleinman Fine Jewelers. Golden light spilled through the glass storefront, glinting off a dozen engagement rings in perfect rows, promises behind glass. Inside, the air smelled faintly of polish and velvet. Mr. Kleinman looked up from his counter and smiled in recognition. Melissa Hartman, he said warmly. How's the ring treating you? Still sparkling, I hope. I managed a thin smile. That's actually what I came to talk about. His brow furrowed. Oh? My fiancé, ex-fiancé now, has decided to keep it. That word hung in the air. Keep. He straightened slightly, business mode taking over. I see. You're still on the lease agreement, correct? Yes, I've made 7 payments so far. He turned to his computer, typing efficiently. The rhythmic click of keys filled the silence. After a moment, he nodded. Yes, here it is. Payment plan still active. The ring, legally speaking, remains property of Kleinman Fine Jewelers until the full balance is paid. So, I began slowly, if he refuses to return it, then he's in possession of property that isn't his. His tone was calm but firm. We have a recovery service for situations like this. Professional, discreet. If you'd like, I can initiate the process. I hesitated, not because I doubted him, but because the reality was so surreal. A part of me still saw Ryan's face that morning, the half smirk, the certainty that I'd just accept it. Yes, I said finally. Start it. He slid a form across the counter. There's a service fee, $500. Once we have documentation that the relationship has ended and he's refusing to return the property, our recovery agents will contact him within 48 hours. I scrolled through my phone, opened our final text thread, and showed him Ryan's message. Just so we're clear, I'm not giving back the ring. It's mine. Deal with it. Mr. Kleinman's eyebrows lifted slightly. That should suffice. He printed a few more papers for me to sign. You're handling this well, Ms. Hartman. Most people come in angry. You seem calm. I let out a humorless laugh. I'm a systems analyst, Mr. Kleinman. I like when things make sense. He made his choice. I'm just following the data. He smiled faintly. Fair enough. That night, my phone started lighting up. Ryan had posted on Instagram a photo of his hand, the ring glittering in the low light, captioned, PSA, a gift is a gift. Don't let bitter people rewrite history. Keep your happiness, kings. Hundreds of likes, comments from his friends, from Chloe, from people I didn't even know. Preach. She doesn't deserve you. Some people just can't handle rejection. I scrolled through every word with a detached calm I didn't recognize in myself. This wasn't grief, it was clarity. An hour later, a new text popped up. His mother, Diane. Melissa, I can't believe you're harassing my son over a ring. You're humiliating yourself. Be an adult and move on. I typed out 3 words, then deleted them. Instead, I turned my phone face down and let the room go dark. Because what they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the recovery process was already in motion. By morning, things had escalated. Chloe texted from an unknown number. You're actually sick. Ryan's having panic attacks because of you. Hope you're proud. I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded everything to a new folder I'd labeled Documentation. By noon, Mr. Kleinman called. Our recovery service has reached out to Mr. Foster. He's been uncooperative. I could almost hear the understatement. Uncooperative how? He demanded proof that the ring was still legally ours. We've provided it. He's now threatening to call his lawyer and post about it publicly. Let him, I said. There was a pause on the line, and then his quiet chuckle. You're something else, Ms. Hartman. Not really, I said softly. Just tired. That evening, Claire, my sister, came over with takeout. She's 2 years older, with a habit of reading my emotions faster than I can process them. So, she said between bites of lo mein, you really called the jeweler? Yes. Damn, she leaned back. That's cold. It's logical, I corrected. She grinned. Same thing in your language. We sat in silence for a while. The TV hummed in the background, some mindless sitcom laughter echoing through the room. You okay? She asked finally. I stared at the untouched food. You ever get tired of being the reasonable one? Every day, she said, but it beats being the one who blows up their own life on Instagram. That made me laugh, really laugh, for the first time in weeks. By the weekend, Ryan's posts had multiplied. One photo of him holding the ring box. Another selfie with a caption. If someone tries to steal your joy, make sure they can't afford the receipt. His comments were a circus. Pity, outrage, flattery. He was thriving on the attention. And for the first time, I realized that's all he'd ever truly loved. Not me. Not us. Just the version of himself reflected in my belief. I didn't comment. I didn't text. I didn't even block him. Because the next move wasn't mine anymore. Sunday morning, my phone rang again. Unknown number. Ms. Hartman, this is Allied Recovery Services. We've been contracted by Kleinman Fine Jewelers regarding property currently in possession of a Mr. Ryan Foster. Yes, I said. That's correct. We're scheduling retrieval for Tuesday at 10 a.m. I closed my eyes. Understood, thank you. The woman's tone softened slightly. Most people sound furious when we call. You sound relieved. I am, I said quietly. Very. I hung up and stared out the window, watching raindrops streak down the glass. For the first time since the breakup, I felt something almost like peace. Not satisfaction, not yet, but the early shape of justice. And if Ryan thought his social media game made him untouchable, he was about to learn what accountability actually looked like. Part 3. Tuesday morning arrived cold and brilliant, sunlight slicing through the blinds like judgment. I was halfway through my first cup of coffee when my phone buzzed. Claire, of course. She didn't bother with hello. Melissa, he's live streaming it. My pulse slowed instead of spiking, the way it does when you've already expected the fire before smelling the smoke. Live streaming what? The Repo team. They're at his apartment right now. I set my cup down, pulled up Instagram, and there it was. Ryan Foster live, already at 2,000 viewers. The camera shook as he paced in his living room, his voice rising with practiced outrage. They're here to steal my ring, the one my ex-fiancé gave me. Some fake company pretending they have a claim to it. This is harassment, you guys. I'm calling the cops. Behind him, a calm female voice said, Mr. Foster, as I've explained, this isn't about your breakup. This is about a leased item still owned by Kleinman Fine Jewelers until the final payment clears. We have documentation here. I don't care about your documentation, Ryan snapped. She gave it to me. It's mine. His hand, still wearing the ring, flashed toward the camera like he wanted the world to see his proof. The recovery agent, composed in a dark blazer, didn't flinch. Sir, we'd prefer to handle this peacefully. If you continue refusing, we'll involve law enforcement for a civil standby. You're threatening me? No, sir. Informing you of the process. The comment section exploded. This is insane. She's psycho for sending Repo people. Check your contracts, bro. And then 10 minutes later, the feed cut off. I sat there in silence, the reflection of the paused live stream mirrored in my laptop screen. The rain had stopped overnight, leaving the city washed clean and empty-looking. In the reflection, my own face looked calm, too calm. Claire texted again. He's crying on his stories, says they took it. I opened Instagram again. There he was, red-eyed, holding up his bare hand to the camera. They literally took my ring with a cop watching. Over a breakup. This is what happens when bitter people can't move on. He sniffled dramatically. I feel violated. I feel attacked. I can't believe someone I loved would do this. I stared at the screen until the autoplay ended. No tears came, just that strange, hollow clarity that arrives after a storm. My kettle clicked off in the kitchen. I poured hot water into my mug, listening to the soft hiss, like the world letting out a long-held breath. By noon, the entire ordeal had spread beyond his circle. Someone had screen-recorded the livestream and posted it on TikTok with the caption, "Dude loses engagement ring after refusing to return leased jewelry." Half the comments were laughing, half were furious. The internet's jury, divided as always. Mr. Kleinman called that afternoon. Ms. Hartman, just confirming, the item's been retrieved. The agents reported no incident, though Mr. Foster was emotional. I could almost hear his diplomatic restraint. Thank you, I said softly. Did they have to call the police? They did, only to explain the legal situation. Once that was clear, he surrendered the ring. It's back in our inventory, no damages. Good, I murmured. He hesitated before saying, You've handled this with remarkable grace, Ms. Hartman. I wish all clients were this composed. Grace. That was one word for it. Another was empty. I thanked him, hung up, and closed my laptop. That night, Diane called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Her voice came through sharp and shaking. Melissa, how dare you send armed men to my son's home? They weren't armed, Diane. They were a recovery service accompanied by law enforcement. That ring was a gift. You humiliated him publicly. You've traumatized him. I let her rant. When she finally paused for breath, I said quietly, He refused to return property that legally belonged to someone else. That's not trauma, that's consequence. You're cold, she spat. He said you always were. I smiled faintly. Then he should have expected this. I ended the call before she could reply. By the end of the week, Ryan's posts had turned from fury to victimhood. Photos of him looking pensive, captions like, Healing is hard when people betray you. You never really know someone until they show you how vindictive they are. And of course, one selfie, tear-streaked, captioned, I gave her my heart. She took my ring. The comments were an echo chamber of sympathy and drama, but buried between them, new voices appeared. Didn't he say he didn't buy it? If it was leased, that's theft. Girl dodged a bullet. I didn't respond. Didn't like, didn't share, didn't feed the flames. Silence was my weapon now. Claire came by again that Friday. She dropped a grocery bag on my counter, wine, popcorn, and a small cake with messy icing that read, "You win." I laughed. This isn't a competition. She raised an eyebrow. Sure, tell that to Instagram. I poured her a glass of wine. You saw his posts? Yeah. Also saw the video of the repo. It's viral, by the way. Someone edited dramatic music under it. Oh, perfect, I said dryly. Exactly how I wanted to go viral. She leaned against the counter. You don't look happy. I'm not. I stared out the window. I thought I'd feel vindicated. Instead, I just feel done. Claire nodded. Closure doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it's just silence. We clinked glasses quietly. That night, as the city hummed beyond the window, I checked my phone one last time. Ryan had deleted all the ring-related posts. His last story was just a black screen with white text. Some people will twist the law to hurt you. Protect your peace. Protect your peace. Coming from him, it almost sounded like parody. I put my phone face down and turned off the light. Because my peace didn't need protecting anymore. It had already been reclaimed. One legal document, one quiet choice, one clean ending at a time. It's been 5 weeks since the ring was repossessed. Enough time for outrage to burn out, for gossip to fade into whispers, and for peace to settle in like dust after a storm. I haven't heard from Ryan directly since that last post, but his mother, Diane, left one more voicemail. You've destroyed my son's faith in love. You used the legal system to humiliate him. You should be ashamed. I didn't respond. I just archived it along with everything else. Screenshots, messages, screenshots of his screenshots. It all lives in a folder called Evidence, which I'll probably delete someday, once the bitterness finally dissolves. For now, it stays. Not out of spite, out of remembrance. Because people like Ryan rewrite history when you don't hold the receipts. A few mutual friends reached out in the weeks after. Nina, one of the few who stayed neutral, texted me. Hey, Ryan's been saying you ruined him. Is that true? I replied with one sentence. Truth doesn't need hashtags. She didn't reply that night, but called the next morning. Melissa, can I tell you something without you getting mad? Try me. He was talking to someone. A woman from his gym, for months before the breakup. Nothing physical, supposedly, just emotional stuff. I didn't flinch. I'd already suspected as much from the way his tone changed every time he said Chloe's name. Still, hearing it confirmed felt like pressing on a bruise just to make sure it's still tender. Thanks, Nina, I said quietly. That actually helps. Helps? Yeah, it makes everything make sense. The next day, I went downtown during my lunch break. Not for confrontation, for closure. Kleiman Fine Jewelers gleamed in the afternoon light, the same way it had the night everything fell apart. Through the window, I saw the ring, back in its display case, polished and sparkling under soft gold light, waiting for its next story. A couple stood in front of the case, young, nervous, full of hope. The man pointed at the ring, grinning. The woman laughed, covering her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. I watched them for a moment, then turned away. The past, perfectly looped, glittering behind glass. That weekend, I visited Mom. She greeted me with her usual mix of affection and mild interrogation. You look tired, sweetheart. Still working too much? Maybe, I said, smiling, but I brought you something. I opened a small velvet box and held out a delicate gold necklace with a tiny diamond pendant. Her eyes widened. Melissa, it's beautiful. It's from the store, I said. They let me use my previous payments as credit. She clasped it around her neck, tears softening her smile. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to, I said simply. It's the right place for that money to go. She touched the pendant gently, then looked at me. You okay, really? I thought for a moment before answering. I think so. I used to believe closure came from confrontation. Now, I think it comes from acceptance. She smiled. That's my girl. Back home that night, the apartment felt different. Lighter, quieter. No lingering scent of Ryan's cologne. No leftover mug with motivational quotes. No digital ghosts haunting my notifications. I made tea, curled up by the window, and watched the city lights flicker like faraway stars. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like someone waiting for an apology. I felt like someone who'd already given it to herself. I still see the occasional meme about the ring girl on Reddit threads. Clips from Ryan's live stream. Commenters arguing about who was right. Some call me petty. Others call me brilliant. But I don't read past the first few lines anymore. Because revenge, when done quietly, stops needing an audience. My version of revenge wasn't rage. It was calm. It was the kind of stillness that terrifies people who thrive on chaos, because silence doesn't give them anything to feed on. Every now and then, I think back to that night. Him standing there, smirking, telling me the ring was his. How sure he looked. How safe he felt in his assumptions. And then I remember what Mr. Kleinman said when I signed the repossession forms. Most people want revenge. You just want fairness. He was right. Fairness turned out to be enough. If there's one thing I learned through all of this, it's that peace doesn't roar. It hums softly when you stop chasing validation and start choosing yourself. Ryan can keep his stories, his followers, his endless victim posts. The truth is quiet, but it lasts longer. And somewhere downtown, in a display case behind glass, that ring still sparkles under the lights. It's waiting for the next promise, the next illusion, the next pair of hands that believe in forever. But not mine, not anymore. I've already given myself something rarer than any diamond. Freedom.